Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service here in Hernando County, Florida. And with me today is my regular co-host, Lily Browning,
She's
who's the
back.
Hernando County Florida-Friendly Landscape Coordinator. So she coordinates the program and not all the landscapes in the county.
That's right.
Maybe
Florida
her
Friendly
landscape,
Landscaping
but not anybody else's.
Program Coordinator. Correct.
Okay, boss lady. So FFL boss lady, just call her
Yeah.
that.
I'm
And coming back by popular demand is our master gardener Bernie, who fills in for me on weeks when I have to go out of town for a meeting or something that I usually don't really want to go to but have to go to. And every Thursday afternoon is on Facebook. We shoot a little short video with Bernie called Burnology. You can see the little sign right behind his head there,
above his head, going sideways. Burnology.
where he shares something new every week. So be sure to tune into our Facebook page every Thursday afternoon for that and catch that. And good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
I'm just glad to be here.
Yes, me too. I haven't been here in a while. And guess what? I won't be
What?
here next week. So you get a nice rare visit from me. Your
You
regular
have been,
co-host is becoming a little irregular.
yes.
Yes, next week I will be here, but almost definitely the week after that I will not be here. I will be in Gainesville
Well, I'll be here then. And maybe I'll
for
pop in next week. Maybe I can pop in from the Chesapeake Bay.
Ooh,
Yes.
my favorite. I'm a blue crab lover, so anytime you
oh
go to
my.
the Chesapeake, bring me back some.
I will see about that.
You go to those outdoor crab restaurants where you get a bushel of crabs and they just dump them on a wooden picnic table and you clean them and eat them outside. That's
I
good stuff.
went to
I
one of
don't
those where it was all you could eat, and after I had 36, they threw me out, which I didn't think was very nice. That's all you can eat, boy. Out of here.
know.
Time for you to go home.
Yeah.
Were you hammering them?
Yes, uh, just the claws, just smash
Uh,
the claw.
yeah. I've never done that. I've never really,
Really?
I mean, I've eaten crab, but not out of the shell. I guess it should. So maybe that's a new experience I should do. I mean, I go up there all the time because my son lives in Hampton, but I've never done the crab things while I was up there.
Need to try it once, if nothing else.
Of course, I think I've told you, Bernie, that I spent like 3 days in Philadelphia and did not get a single Philly cheesesteak. Not for lack of opportunity, but just for lack of desire, because I don't like them that much. But I walk by them on every block.
I'm surprised that they actually have that many. Usually, when something has the name of a
Yeah,
town, the town doesn't even know about it. So
right. And I was kind of surprised too, but there were the carts just about on every block. So
Okay, well, if anybody has any questions about lawn and garden topics, or if you have questions about Philly cheesesteaks, we do have Lily here to answer those. And
but I
Bernie
don't like
is
them.
happy to comment on seafood and large amounts of seafood. So, whatever is on your mind, feel free to just go ahead and toss it in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them. And we have Teresa here with us. So, if you ask a question, she'll be looking up the University of Florida fact sheets and links and things like that. She'll go ahead and share that. Good morning, Monique. How are you?
Monique's back in town, walking all the beautiful dogs. She has a dog watching service, a dog walking service, and I swear the only dog um, all her client dogs are absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, we have a question here. Is there anything that I can realistically plant from seed now, or should I wait for fall?
I assume they're talking about edible vegetables, things like that.
Maybe. If that is the case, if you're referring to things that would go into your vegetable garden or other kind of edible plantings, we're technically getting a little late to be planting spring vegetables. They should already be in the ground coming up. They should be halfway towards producing at this point. There are a few things that you can plant here in the summer, but not a lot. And they tend to be oddball kind of vegetables, things like calabaza, which is a variety of winter squash. You can plant Seminole pumpkin, which is another variety of winter squash. There is a new variety, I think it's Georgia Bulldog or Orange Bulldog, something like that. It's a variety of pumpkin that was bred by University of Georgia that grows really well in Georgia and Florida during the summer. I haven't tried it. I'm going to try it this year. Lily, what are two other tasty southern delicacies that grow well in Florida in the heat of summer?
Okra, black-eyed peas, and sweet potatoes.
Yes, very good. And all three don't mind the heat. All three of them you can plant right now, and you still have another month or two, I guess, to get them in the ground. They're going to do really well in the heat of summer. But if you want to plant more traditional vegetables, the green beans, pole beans,
Tomatoes, peppers.
cucumbers, peppers, those things you're going to have to wait until fall.
What about hot peppers?
Hot peppers, if you plant them in the spring, they can survive the summer, but you usually don't get hardly any peppers off of them. And summer's really, really tough on them. You're going to have some diseases, some insect pests. You're going to get leaf-footed bugs on them. But if you can keep them alive until fall, when it starts to cool off a tiny bit and the days get shorter, they'll kind of flush back out, and you'll get a nice second crop of hot peppers.
I want hot peppers to be a cool season plant, but they don't listen to me. But I want them to be a cool season plant for aesthetic reasons, because they look like Christmas bulbs. So therefore, I want them to grow in the winter. But they
If you
don't.
ever try growing Thai hot peppers, they get the little hot peppers that if you eat General Tso's chicken, it's the hot peppers they throw in it. And
That's the one, yeah, that has the 3 hot peppers in the menu after it. Yes.
But you'll get a ton of them, and they turn bright red, and they're very, very pretty. Almost, I guess, looks like a little Christmas tree.
I wanted to mention that on Friday, June 2nd at noon, we will have a virtual lunch and learn. Don't look so like you've never heard this, Dr. Lester, because this is going to be your program called Eat in the Heat, and all about growing. We had this conversation, Bill. Don't look at me like that.
As I'm checking my schedule here, when are we doing that?
I sent you the calendar invite. Eat in the Heat, and Dr. Lester is going to tell us all about the edible things we can grow in the summer here in Florida.
Yes, I will. And what's the date? Oh, the date on that is June 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, that's on my schedule.
Okay, good.
Lunch and learn with Lily. I thought you meant tomorrow.
Oh, no. No, tomorrow I have a reindeer workshop. So,
Okay.
Yep, June 2nd is when we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So tune in, and he'll give you, not only the basics, those basic 3, okra, sweet potato, and black-eyed peas, which if you think about that, you associate all 3 of those things with what? Southern cooking.
Southern cuisine.
Because it's what they could grow when it was so hot. But those other, new alternatives or refound alternatives that, we can introduce. And so you're going to cover all of that, aren't you, Dr. Lester?
Yes, and I'll cover chayote squash also. That's kind of a type of summer squash that grows on a vine, but it grows during the heat of summer here. It's a tropical vegetable. Generally, the only things that are going to do well here in the heat of summer are tropical vegetables, and some people are very familiar with them. A lot of other people have never heard of some of them, but I'll try to cover all of them.
Okay, that'll be great. Cindy says there's no rain in Pinellas County. Well, talk to any of your friends in Miami. They would be glad to share, I'm sure. You know, we've
We
had
had
a
a little bit of rain at my house a couple days ago.
So did we, a little bit, and which is unusual because, you know, usually there is a hole of no clouds around my street when it's raining everywhere else. It's like the donut hole of the rain. But do you know why we got some rain?
Why?
Because we had people coming over to install a new pool liner.
Oh, okay.
That is why we got the rain. They had to come the next day. So should have done that sooner. But the area that did not rain, at least significantly that day, was right around Anderson Snow Park. It rained earlier, but not a lot, and it dried up in time that I had to go to a softball game. So of my
All
granddaughter.
worked out perfectly, didn't it?
Yes. So we did get a some, and there's supposed to be, I don't know if there's any in the forecast. I know the places that got it got like, I saw inches of hail in where it must have been like Orange County or somewhere like that.
I think maybe,
from Lake County down to Polk County.
Okay.
yeah,
Down
that's what I was-
Highway 27.
That was around the right area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we're
Whether it's,
getting more rain inland just over here on the West Coast, still a little thin.
if you go to Hernando County Government YouTube, I believe my latest video on there, and it's only about a half an hour long, so it's not as long as others. Or I tried to go over, you know, landscaping in hot and dry season. And Bernie, are we in a drought?
We are. And
Not an official drought.
do you remember, what was it, about 20 years ago when the whole state was on fire? We had 5 or 6 airplanes based here that were tankers going out and spraying fires, and it was a mess. If the things keep going, and another month of dry, we could start having that kind of condition again. They're talking about the next front coming through is going to bring dry weather with it. So if we don't get some rain in this next little thing that comes through, it'll be dry for another week. So
Right. We're in the dry season.
we are.
We're not in a particularly unusual situation. We're just in the dry season. And it seems really dry. And those of us with freedom lawns, Bahia mixed with weeds and stuff, you know what my lawn sounds like? Crunch, 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 crunch. But I know if I'm just patient enough, it's going to come back. And, by July, August, it's going to look fabulous. Something you just have to be patient. And even if you have a Floratam lawn, Bernie preaches this all the time too. If you have, been cheating on the watering, restrictions and giving it water, or even twice a week or whatever, you're gonna have these little roots and a little hydroponic lawn, so that of course it reacts adversely when we're in the dry times. So what's the rest of that story, Bernie? If you cut it
Mow
hot,
it at 4 inches and only water it if it absolutely needs it. If you walk across the lawn and you leave footprints and the footprints are still there tomorrow, it's probably dry. The St. Augustine grass does a really wonderful thing. That the blade is open like so. And as it gets dry, the blade closes up. And eventually the blade is completely closed on itself. Well, if you're that dry that the blade completely closed up, you needed water. But if you mowed it at 4 inches and water once a week, it never gets to that point. Might close up part way, but it never gets to the point where it's under real distress. Mow it short. You have very short roots. If the root only goes 1.5 inches into the ground, the first 1.5 inches of soil dries out first. So you mow it short, you cause the short roots, you cause your own drought problem. If you mow it at 4 inches like it's supposed to be, the roots get to be 8 to 12 inches long. They get down where there's some water, and the lawn's happy. So, it's a do-it-yourself thing. If you don't like what you got, you do it right and things get better. And if you do it wrong, then you get to resod. And that's basically the way it's done. If you don't take care of the lawn, every 3 years you resod.
One day, Bill and I were walking along the beach looking for invasive plants at Bayport. And we stumbled into native St. Augustine grass. And right on the coast. It was the most fascinating thing to me. And now that is not anything like the Floratam, but it is like the great grandmother of where they started with the Floratam. How tall was that grass, Bill?
Oh, it was 6 inches tall or more, as I remember.
Was it happy?
Yeah, yeah. It was just fine.
It was happy as can be.
It naturally wants to be 6 inches or so tall.
And obviously, fantastic salt tolerance. We know the tide was going to wash it up, to where we were standing at some point. And it was very shady. But that is the native St. Augustine. And it's been hybridized to a point of unrecognizability almost. Can't even begin to be calling it native. It was never meant to be a meadow grass. We saw it in bunch grasses, really high bunch grasses. But I guess the point I'm getting at is its original Eve of the St. Augustine grasses wants to be high grass. And I think it's held on to a little bit of that. It's not meant to be a dwarf ground cover.
I like the origin of the Floratam. That was a conspiracy between the University of Florida and Texas A&M.
So that you can't buy seed. Yes.
There wasn't grass in Florida until the railroad came in. So grass is a function of the railroad, and it was the people from the north got off the train and looked out and saw nothing but sand, and were upset because it didn't look like where they had gotten on the train. And like everything else we do in this country, we had to make it like it used to be somewhere else. So,
where we came from.
Yeah. So
you take the native grasses and you try to turn them into meadow grasses. And more people became interested in doing it when the invention of the hose and the reel mower came about, so that your average citizen could try to have it. Before that, I'm sure my husband's grandparents, they would do like they did out west, in that they became they had a lot of pride in raking their dirt yards, and keeping them nice and smooth, and maybe even making designs in there and stuff. But then they used a good part of it to actually grow functionable things that they could use.
They had chickens, and
Yeah.
I can remember some little communities up north, where little farm communities where everybody had chickens in the front yard, and I'm sure the people living in Florida back in the late 1800s had something running around that they were going to eat, had a milk cow maybe, or some
Absolutely. Just like
chickens
anywhere else.
or
Yeah.
a couple of pigs. When you're having to take care of yourself, you do things a lot different than when you can go to the store.
Yep.
And most people today think that food comes from the store, and that's as far as they need to think about it.
I have read, I didn't read the second part. I read the first part of A Land Remembered, which is a great, I think the University of Florida even promotes it, but it tells the history of Florida, and it talks about, the people who lived here before mosquito control and air conditioning, and, they lived in the scrub and they made their living. And this is, the story of one family who figured out, hey, I could wrestle these wild cows that the Spanish left here and get them to the coast and sell them and, begin to make a living. But it was not an easy living, for sure. There is a question up here, Bill. Did you see about growing those things in grow bags, I think?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Well, stop it.
We're fighting over control again.
So going back to some of the different things that you can grow here, soon they're going to do well during the heat of summer. Can we plant the okra, sweet potatoes, and black-eyed peas in grow bags or better in the ground? Either way, they would all grow in grow bags. Using grow bags or something like that is very popular for growing sweet potatoes and regular potatoes also, because when it comes time to harvest them, you don't have to get a shovel or a fork and start digging them up. You just take the bag, dump it out, and the sweet potatoes should all roll out for you to pick up and harvest. I've grown sweet potatoes before, and I'm going to grow a pretty big patch of them again this summer. They do really well. It's really hard to not get a good amount of sweet potatoes. So if you like sweet potatoes, grow them, start them soon. And like I said, they're very, very productive here in Florida.
You know what I think about every time we talk about those plants, and I guess it's just in my vision, and you can't see what's in my brain. My mother-in-law, she passed away in 97, but before that, she moved in with her boyfriend who lived in Bell, Florida, way up north up there, little tiny Bell. It's near-ish Live Oak, near-ish. But her boyfriend was an old Florida gentleman who had, I don't even know how many acres he had there. And we'd go up in the summer. We'd ride around on his four-wheeler and all that. But he had acres and acres and acres in the summer of sweet potatoes, okra, and black-eyed peas, and to him, that was just what you do, perfectly normal.
Well, they grow okra here in Florida commercially. I know they grow it down in Homestead. I'm not sure what time of year. They don't grow it really in the heat of summer, although they probably could. They probably do it more spring or fall commercially. And sweet potatoes, let me go ahead and show this again. You go to Hernando County Government's YouTube channel and look on there for my playlist for extension. We have a recorded class on growing sweet potatoes. And the guest speaker, Dr. Mussolini, it works with growers over on the east side of Florida, over around St. Augustine and areas back behind there, to grow sweet potatoes commercially over there for an extra cash crop during the summer. And they're having great success with them over there. Surprisingly easy to grow, really.
Mm-hmm. And what can you do with them after? What do you do with sweet potatoes once you have them?
Eat them. Well, they take about 100 days to grow. So when the day comes and they've been growing long enough, you can kind of feel around where the plants go into the ground, and you'll feel sweet potatoes under the ground. You can carefully harvest them and pull them up. take, I use a paintbrush because it works the best. Take a paintbrush and just kind of brush all the dirt off of them. You can put them in your garage or in a shady spot, ideally on a day when it's not too terribly humid, and leave them for a few days to kind of dry out and cure. And
Where
then
are you going
after
to find that non-humid day in August?
it's not easy. But I mean,
Yeah.
you obviously don't want to put them outside on a tarp in the pouring rain.
So you could, if you have a pantry or a closet or something, you can maybe put them in there.
Yeah, you can. But you let them cure and dry for a little bit, and they end up, they look just like grocery store sweet potatoes, and they don't last forever. But
No.
in a bowl on your counter or in your pantry, someplace out of the weather, as non-humid as you can find in your house, they'll store for quite some time.
So you can make sweet potato fries with them
Oh,
that
I
you
love
dip
that.
in ranch dressing.
Yes, you can. Monique asked, where do you get the pieces of sweet potato? Jennifer pointed out, at the Monique Swan grocery store. That's a good place to look. But you know what I did last year? Because I grew some sweet potatoes last year, not a ton, but I got some in. I bought like 3 sweet potatoes at the grocery store. I took each one, laid them longwise, because the sweet potato, I don't see anything that's the shape of a sweet potato around here. Okay, well, here, let's pretend this is a sweet potato. They tend to be kind of long. If you take them long ways, put them in a pot of soil, bury them 3/4 of the way deep, leave part of it above ground. That's fine.
The whole
Water
sweet
it.
potato. You're not cutting it up. It's the
No.
whole sweet. Okay.
Whole sweet potato. It's going to start sending out shoots. As soon as the shoot gets a couple inches high, trim it off right where it connects to the sweet potato, stick it in a pot of soil. I can almost guarantee it will root. I think all of mine rooted. Sweet potato slips root like little weeds.
So you don't need to do it in water.
Nope. You could do it in moist soil. And then if you keep doing that, you're going to end up with 5 or 10 or 100, however many you want, sweet potato slips. It only takes a week or 2 for them to get roots on them. Transplant it into your garden, and then set it and forget it.
What's the difference between a sweet potato and a yam?
They are different, but they are very different botanically. Sweet potatoes should be somewhere in the lily family, and yams, I'm not sure. Teresa's probably looking that up right now.
Yeah, but I think your typical Southern person might be calling a sweet potato a yam.
Yeah, technically sweet potatoes and yams are totally different plants, but the common name sweet potato and the common name yam is used interchangeably by a lot of people.
So if you get canned yams, though, from the store, that is a different.
No.
If
you buy canned yams in America, you got sweet potatoes. I thought that too, that canned yams were yams, but they're not. There's a thing in the rules on what you can name plants, the Department of Agricultural rules, and basically everything that's sold as yams in the United States is an actual sweet potato.
Kind of like the canned.
You'll find some real yams sold, but they won't be canned.
Kind of like the canned pumpkin that we buy is probably not your orange Halloween pumpkin. It comes from a different type of squash, but it is still, it's in the same family and it works just fine and makes. Heck, I'm not going to cut up a pumpkin to make pumpkin pie. I'm going to use what Libby's gives me.
I don't even make pumpkin pie. I buy pie pumpkins in the fall at the grocery store. They're for dinner. That's a side vegetable for dinner. I'm not going to, carve up pumpkins and let them rot on the front doorstep. Or not.
No,
I'm not a huge fan of pumpkin
carve.
pie. I like pumpkin cheesecake. But
I raised kids here. You know better than to carve pumpkins here. You get a Sharpie or paint and you paint on them, or else you're not going to have a pumpkin very long.
Nope, couple days, then it goes into your compost bin.
Right. And Teresa's showing us botanically the difference between sweet potatoes and yams, but in common vernacular, there isn't necessarily a difference.
Okay, yes, yams are in the Dioscoriaceae, which would be also kind of lily family, I believe.
I don't know them.
Okay. Yeah, see,
They're not in my family.
Come from two different families. And to make it more confusing, there are other root crops, tropical root crops that people grow and eat, and they're going to grow really well here. Boniato, and there's a couple of others. They're sweet potato-like. So you're going to peel them and either bake them or boil them or whatever and make different South and Central American recipes out of them.
So where are those, both of those originally from? Are they from Africa, or, you know, how did we end up knowing about them?
Both of these, at least one is from Africa. Okra was originally from Africa also.
Right.
That's why they're both tropical vegetable crops.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if it's the true sweet potato or the true yams that came from Africa.
Yams are definitely African.
Okay.
Okay. Teresa's throwing links to all kinds of information on here. So if anybody wants to
Look at
deep dive into
words, sweet potato, yams, interchangeable.
Yeah. But when it comes to growing sweet potatoes, Monique said with a piece of sweet potato or just the shoots, what you're going to do is you're going to take that potato, that sweet potato that you bought at the grocery store, and it's going to be your mother plant. And it's going to keep sending out shoots. You're going to keep trimming them off, put the shoots in a pot to root. When they root, they're going to go in your garden to grow.
Right. But I promise you, someone who walks into the Piggly Wiggly in Jasper, Florida, is going to pick that up and say they got a yam. When it's a
and then it just comes to common vernacular. I mean, common names. People in different parts of the country use different common names for different things.
Yep. Well, that was.
And here's some more information on that. Teresa says, native to the Americas, sweet potatoes are known for their colorful and tasty tubers.
All right. And you can make sweet potato pie too. Or you can eat them just like a baked potato. I know they're more calories. I don't know if they're more calories, but they're not low in calories. Anyway, any tuber isn't.
They're higher in sugars for anybody that has issues with that.
Yeah.
But they're still very healthy for you.
Yeah, I think they have more fiber and all of that.
Uh-huh.
Babies love sweet potato baby food. They must make it really
like
sweet.
Sweet potato, and it's safe for them.
Mm-hmm.
And dogs like pumpkin very much also. And it's good for them. But okra, a staple of Southern cuisine, came to the Americas from Western Africa. So it is a tropical vegetable. You can grow it all summer long. You can plant it in the spring. You can have it go until the first frost. When you get frosts and freezes in the winter, it will kill them. But the rest of the year, if you want to grow okra, you can. Okra is one of those, if you grow a ton of it, I'm not really sure what you're going to do with it. You can pickle it. You can fry it. You should be able to can it.
My husband, I know, does not like it. His mother would either steam or boil it. He is not a fan, but I think if you put it in your air fryer or something, it won't have, because it has some slime to it, I think, when you, yes.
Yes, okra is a unique, snotty vegetable.
Yes.
I personally like it, and you can have it with stewed tomatoes, so stewed tomatoes and okra. I like that. But okra is a little bit like eggplants. If you grow too many eggplants, guys, you can only eat so many eggplants and so much okra. I'm sure maybe some of you are thinking like, well, I really, really like them. I can eat a lot. You can probably eat a lot, but you can only eat so much.
Find
And they're
some
really
friends who
difficult.
also like them.
They're difficult to freeze, preserve.
It's like zucchini up north,
Yeah.
where if you leave the house, nobody will take anything, but you'll probably have a bag of zucchini on your porch when you get back.
Yeah, like tomatoes, if you end up with just a bumper crop of tomatoes, you can can them. You can make tomato sauce.
Oh,
can
yeah,
make
you can get so
salsa,
much
you can
stuff
make
with
ketchup.
tomato. Yeah.
A lot of things you could do with it to preserve it and save it. Eggplants, there's eggplant parmesan, which I love, and eggplant parmesan.
Yeah. See, you're making me
Maybe
hungry.
eggplant and okra.
Let's stop talking about food. And Monique wants to talk about flowers.
Okay.
She sowed a bunch of zinnias. They came up in 2 days. Now where to get them to bloom and figure out where to put them. In the sun.
Full sun.
Yeah. That sounds
Really?
fun. I think I will do that when I get back from lounging on the Chesapeake Bay. I want to plant some zinnias.
I have a question for you.
Who? Me?
You, yes. Are annual flowers Florida friendly or not? Or they can be. So it depends on the variety. But there's no blanket Florida unfriendliness because they're annuals, is there?
No, there are annuals in the Florida Friendly Plant Guide.
Okay.
Zinnias are definitely on that list because of the pollinating, attracting properties. You know, they're those nice flat flowers that have those wonderful landing places. Now, what I would say about that is don't make a whole yard of annuals because that would not be Florida friendly. For one thing, that's a lot of work and it's a big carbon footprint, you know, the transport and everything of annuals. Plus, it would cost you a heck of a lot of money. But if you want to have some pots or just this area, this is my area. I change out with the seasons and I want to have fun doing that. There's, you know, that does not go against Florida friendly standards.
Okay.
Principles.
I overheard somebody somewhere kind of allude to that. So I've been meaning to ask you that.
Yeah, Florida friendly, no. I mean, maybe if you are very, very, very concerned about your carbon footprint, then of course perennials, you know, are the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to stop anyone from having their fun annuals out there. You know, sometimes, you know, in the winter, those pansies and petunias might be some of the only color you have out there. So.
Yeah. Okay, returning to our cooking show. Jennifer says ratatouille, which I've made before. I like it very much. Lots of Italian seasoning in there. Lots of garlic, too.
And see, Teresa is gardening with annuals.
You know, I had a friend that lived in Timber Pines that wanted tomatoes year-round. He loved fresh tomatoes in his cooking. And he took a little red kid's wagon, built the sides up on it, filled it with dirt, and planted 2 tomato plants. Every day he would pull it out of the garage, sit it in the driveway in the sun, and the tomatoes would just grow, and he would push it back in an air-conditioned garage every night. He had tomatoes year-round. So it is possible to grow tomatoes year-round here if you're willing to do the work for it. I was just amazed. And they were good-sized tomatoes. He could actually grow heirlooms because he had the season for it. He had 6-7 months that each plant was really producing large tomatoes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's not many things that are impossible if you put your mind to it and do all kind of calisthenics to make it happen. But the advice we give is obviously for the average citizen and, you know, growing it outside and.
Well, it's like bananas, you know. if you get 2 years in a row, get a winter that doesn't have any heavy freeze or any really heavy frost, you get bananas.
Yeah.
But every year it frosts and bananas start over. So every year resets bananas, and about 1 out of 8 or 9 years, you finally get bananas. So I had a neighbor build a tent over his bananas, covered it in plastic, put a heater in it, the whole thing. So he finally got his bananas, and I hope he enjoyed them, because he probably had $600 in those bananas.
Yes.
I saw somebody do the same thing for a small starfruit tree, and it seemed to work pretty well. Those couple cold nights we had this past winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Bill had someone asking him yesterday about mango trees. You know,
We do have mango trees here. Not many, but somebody a year or two ago sent me an email, and they said, I just moved in. We just bought a house in Spring Hill. We moved in. There's a tree out back. What kind of tree is this? I open up the picture, and it's a mango. And they sent me a picture of a nice, big, beautiful mango on the mango tree. And it was a big tree. And it looked very healthy. And it had mangoes on it. I'm thinking, can you bring me some? I love mangoes. But so it is possible, but 9 out of 10 people who try it are probably not going to be successful with it. Same thing with avocados. They can grow here, but you always get enough cold during the winter to knock them back. They have to catch up. They get knocked back. They have to catch up.
Just like those banana trees. Yeah.
You can get mango, or you can get avocados off of them, but it doesn't happen very often.
Most banana trees that I see are like, if you want a plant that gets nice and leafy during the summer and then dies every single winter, never gives you any fruit, then I guess it's fine. Or like he said, every decade or so, you might get some fruit, or you may spend $600 in equipment and electricity for that banana.
But a little bit of advanced planning, if you have them up against a fence and you have big enough sheets that you kind of, instead of throwing them away, you hold on to them, put them in the garage during the year, put just kind of a couple of poles to make a teepee over them, cover them diligently. A lot of times that's enough. Now, you can't miss a really cold night, because all it takes is one cold night.
Right. Now,
a lot of damage.
My sister lived on Hunter Lake, 35 years ago, and she could successfully grow these little tiny bunch bananas. They were like this big.
Yeah, the little apple bananas, I think they call them.
Okay. I just know that she gave some to my baby, which came out green then, and I was like, wow, what did you feed her? But it was these little tiny bananas, but she was able to grow them because of the warmer climate from the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you tell people you can't grow something here, there's you can't grow a jacaranda, but there's at least 2 full-size adult jacarandas in the county. Lime trees, nobody is going to be successful with limes, but there's probably 5 trees that I know of that really produce.
Well, we're speaking percentage-wise when we tell you.
Yeah.
And some people take it as a challenge, and it's like, go for it. But,
microclimate and just having to have a really hardy tree really go together. It's just amazing how that works.
Will kiwi grow here?
Generally, no. And there's a number of different varieties of kiwi. If you're thinking the kind of kiwi that you buy at the grocery store, the little fuzzy one, they don't do well here because it's too hot and steamy during the summer, and we get too much cold during the winter. I do not know if, Bernie, have you ever heard anybody Who had
No,
kiwi
I
here?
don't know if anybody has successfully grown kiwi.
They do sell it. I've seen it before at nurseries and this and that, but I don't know of anybody who grows it either commercially or just for a backyard.
So where does it grow?
New Zealand.
Australia.
What will it grow in South Florida, or does it need to be dry like Australia, like
Probably California climate.
California? Yeah.
California, yeah. I think a lot of our kiwi that you buy at the grocery store comes from California.
Okay.
California's
Humid
Mediterranean
here, then.
climate, totally kind of opposite of us.
It's arid. Yes.
Yes, more arid.
Yes. Except maybe San Francisco, I guess, isn't. But most of California is. They can grow things we can't because they don't have the high humidity that we do.
The high humidity and high heat, and then out there you can use elevation to your advantage.
Right.
Here in
Right.
Florida, Florida's all flat. There's no hills, there's nothing very high up. In California, and I know that in Arizona they do this also, if you want to build a greenhouse and grow tomatoes out in Arizona, it's too hot, it's kind of desert. But if you start going up in elevation, it gets cooler and cooler, and you can build a greenhouse high enough up where now you have the right environment and you could be successful. You still need fans, but the fan and pad cooling works great out in Arizona. Because is it humid in Arizona?
No.
No, not at all.
Not
Is
at
it
all.
humid here in the summer? Oh,
It's humid
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not bad now.
It's getting there.
It's
Here,
beautiful.
Teresa has an answer about our kiwi. There were several attempts to grow kiwi fruits in northern and central Florida, and a few vines are growing experimentally in the southern part of the state, and even in the Florida Keys. So far, only the plants at Tallahassee have fruited to any extent. So Buddy will have to go check those out.
Yeah, and the Panhandle is a little bit different because, if you go all the way up to the Florida state line and head west, there are areas out there, the only parts of Florida where we grow cotton, soybeans.
Right, because that's kind of 8B up there, isn't it? The zone.
Yeah. But some of those areas really are basically the equivalent of southern Alabama or southern Georgia. So plants don't always respect state lines.
They don't. Weird.
Nope.
We're talking about avocados. One of the people that I worked with at the airport would bring in these big Florida avocados, and they're coming from a tree in Pinellas County, and he wanted to save the seed and grow them here, and I talked him out of it. I don't think that there's any chance it could have been successful, but it's surprising that 20 miles or 30 miles makes such a dramatic difference. But
which is exactly what Cindy is saying here.
Yep.
It amazes me how many different growing zones Florida has, and even though you are so close to where I am, she's in Pinellas, makes a great difference. But she's not far south enough to grow more tropical plants. The other thing you have going for you, Cindy, is Pinellas County's in its own little peninsula off of a peninsula. So you have, those nice warm sea breezes and stuff too, different than what we have. But it does, even Newport Richey to northern Hernando makes a big difference. You can grow those jacaranda trees in Newport Richey, not necessarily in Dade City, further inland, but along the coast you can. And up here they'll probably freeze.
And I know there's a lot of people down in Tarpon Springs that grow backyard mangoes.
Yeah.
They do. They're pretty reliable down there. And if you drive into Pinellas County and you go to Indian Rocks Beach,
Mm-hmm.
you hit a point where the palm trees in everybody's front yard and even planted along the road completely change. It's South Florida palms. All the bottle palms and things that are going to die here.
Foxtail palms. I love those foxtail palms. They're the coolest looking palms.
And they are beautiful in South Florida. Boy, they will die fast here during the winter. When it gets to freezing, they die, and they die dead. They don't come back.
Dead. They done die dead.
Yeah, they die really dead. They're not going to come back in the spring generally.
Lydia has a question about what stone fruit we can grow.
Bernie, what would you recommend for stone fruit in the Brooksville area?
If you want to grow stone fruit here, you have to realize that the chill hours is the limiting thing on stone fruit. So in practice, we have about 300 chill hours. In some winters we have 200, and some winters we have 375. So if you want peaches, you need a tree that has low stone fruit, medium or low chill hours, medium chill hours, and a little higher chill hours. And one of the three trees will produce every year. The other two may or may not produce, or they'll only have a limited amount of peaches. If you want the peaches, that's the trick. That's the way to do it. The other thing you have to realize is that because of our climate, the life of those trees is really short. You plant the trees, you start getting the fruit. By the time they're actually producing well, you've only got about 8 years of production, and the tree probably will decline and die. So
that was
as
8
obvious
years.
Thing, it makes a lot of sense. You can do it very well. As a commercial thing, I'm not sure that we've got that nailed down quite yet.
People
However,
have
the
tried
university,
it.
sorry.
People have tried it here commercially, but
yeah, the university has trees
right
for
now
just about every chill hour requirement, starting at about 100 chill hours. So it's possible to grow them. And there's some other stone fruit. You can grow plums, mediocre, successful. The plum trees that I had were very susceptible to nematodes, which surprised me. I thought that they would be grafted and not be a problem. I live on an old orange grove and have serious nematode problems. But if somebody asks about stone fruit, the absolute best one to grow is a peach. And if you really want to do it serious and have fruit every year, get 2 or 3 varieties.
Now the native blueberries that grow in the woods, they're just about all stone. So
great for wildlife, not so great for like blueberry pie.
Yes.
I think it's funny people buy blueberries and put them in the ground here and don't get much success. Blueberries are unusual in that they have a very acidic soil requirement, about 5.5 pH, and there's very few places in this area that the pH is that low. So they grow blueberries in a acidic mulch,
in pine mulch,
usually pine bark mulch, and the roots never even leave the pine bark mulch. They get down to the soil and they say, I don't like that stuff, and they stay in the mulch. So
yep, we're having a blueberry festival this weekend, and if you go to any of the blueberry farms, you'll see they're on mounds. The bushes aren't in the ground. They're because they have to try and control that pH.
And people are going to buy the blueberries and take them home and plant them in the soil, and I'll start getting calls about my blueberries are doing terrible, and it's because they do not want to be here. So if you want to plant them in the mulch and do a little work, they're mediocre successful. If you One, put them in the ground. That's not a particularly good plant. And you really should have more than one variety of blueberries. If you're only going to have 2 or 3 plants, get 2 or 3 different varieties, and about 1 bag of pine bark mulch per plant. It's fairly successful.
Yeah, just because they grow them commercially and they have U-pick blueberry farms doesn't mean that they grow themselves and are really
Or that
easy
it's
to grow.
easy. It's not easy.
hmm
Yeah. And
But I
don't
have
they
noticed
need-
there's a lot of U-pick operations really all over Central Florida. I know there's some in Pasco County that have U-pick peaches right now.
Right. And I think blueberries, it started out all gung-ho, what, about 20 years ago, Bernie? 25 years ago, maybe, we were going to be the blueberry capital of Florida. And I mean, there are still people trying it and hanging on, but they also have diversified. They're not fully all just blueberry farms because it's harder than they thought it was going to be.
The numbers that Dr. Stacy was giving me was that it took about $15,000 to establish an acre of blueberries. And at the time when the blueberry thing was just beginning, he said the return was about $30,000 an acre because we had blueberries when nobody else did.
We had them 2 weeks before Georgia did. Yeah.
And because the return was so high per acre, everybody jumped in. And as soon as they did, the cost to establish them stayed $15,000 an acre, but the return started dropping. And the return got down to the point where it was difficult for most people to spend $15,000 an acre to make back $500 or $600 an acre in profit. So it wasn't a good deal for them anymore. And it turned out we had blueberry plants that looked like they were going to be fantastic, and they had real short life. And people were replacing varieties of blueberry plants early. There were some diseases that popped up, a lot of fungal problems that weren't there initially, but once the blueberries were there and established, the fungus came. So if you plant them, we will come. That is the motto of the fungus. So
we didn't become, they wanted Brooksville to become what Plant City is, just strawberries, but I don't think it was vetted out for years first before, everyone jumped on that bandwagon. They're still around. We could still,
people still grow them here, and they grow them in different parts of Florida. You can't go much south of Hernando County and successfully grow them. But from here, anywhere north, as time goes on, they harvest and then it moves further north.
I am getting really hungry from this program.
Yeah, we've shared a lot of recipe ideas here today.
Yeah, yes.
We haven't done much gardening, but we've shown that we are a group of eaters. And I think the scales would show that.
Yeah.
We can cover it all. With Teresa's help, throwing up all the links for all the fact sheets, and I went ahead and put in the comments a link for a very short little survey. If you've never taken that before, we ask you if you can click on that. It's only a couple questions just to give us an idea of, are we doing any good here? What are we doing here, Lily? What the heck are we doing?
We're talking.
Okay.
I like talking to you and Bernie, so
Okay. Well, we're just trying.
And two of us are getting paid for this. So
Well, this isn't my day. I'm not a volunteer. I get paid for this.
Yeah, I said 2 of us are getting paid.
Okay.
Yes.
Now here's the ideal situation: 80 blueberries in North Florida. So the climate's actually better. The blueberries likes cold weather. It's got a river nearby which moderates the temperature, which tends to make the hot not quite so hot and the cold not quite so cold. Probably keeps the soil moisture high enough that the blueberries don't have any problem. And the
So then
farther north you go, the less sand and less calcium you have in the soil, and the pH is probably naturally lower.
right. So her only issue is probably, why can I never remember what those birds' names are?
Oh,
Cedar waxwings.
Cedar waxwing.
cedar waxwings, yeah.
Do you have any trouble with cedar waxwings, Anne Marie, and how do you handle that?
And blueberries do really well in Florida, generally from about Ocala or Gainesville north. They grow a lot more blueberries up there. And they make blueberry wine, which is
That's not
different.
bad.
It's different. It's not bad. It's pretty good.
Makes a good sangria.
We'll have to try that.
Is blueberry wine blue?
It's purple.
It's purple.
Yeah, kind of purple.
Okay. I was picturing like blue Kool-Aid or something. I think we're almost.
No, it's about that time to begin wrapping it up here. I also put up the link for Hernando County Government's YouTube channel, so you can click on the link and go there.
Yes.
And Lily has you're up to about a bajillion classes now on YouTube.
Yes. Exactly bajillion. Yes.
Okay, she's got a bajillion classes on there.
I have 110 videos on there.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many of them co-star Bernie?
None.
No, about 3 or 4.
Yeah, you got a few with him on there.
Yeah.
Okay, Anne Marie says she doesn't have any problem with any bugs on her blueberries. They can have problems. I know that there's fruit fly larvae that affect them, and a couple of other oddball insects.
Well, I also know keeping the pH low like they like it, and then, you know, when your pH is low, then I think what is it, nickel, Bernie, that they have trouble, they need a little bit, and then with pH, it's like a fine balance of the micronutrients that they need getting through when, you know, they're so pH finicky, it's outrageous, you know, to be at this right pH level, which is low, but then sometimes the micronutrients that they need aren't delivered to them because the pH is too low.
Mhm.
So, and then if you give too much, then I know Stacy had been dealing with in a local farm like boron, like too much boron, and then it affected the plants adversely. So it's a tightrope act with those blueberries.
But further north, it's really not that difficult as long as you naturally, you know, if you live in the country especially, and you're dealing with native soil, if it just happens to be fairly acidic where you are, grow blueberries. They tend to work really well up there. And Keel's Wine, they make blueberry and muscadine wine. I've been there before. They're in Plant City, I believe.
Okay.
Put in a plug for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
She's
And we
answering
got
Cassandra Cuttings easily to root. I'm glad Teresa's answering that because I really don't know the answer to that. So
yeah, and Anne-Marie lives out in the country. So if you've ever gotten a soil test done, you have a working idea what your pH is. That gives you an idea of what you can grow. I know that people here in Hernando County, if you live in Hernando Beach, you have really high pH. You'll never be able to grow azaleas or gardenias or blueberries really well. In the ground, you can grow them in a pot, but not in the ground. So on the other end, if you have really low pH, other plants are going to struggle. So you have to figure out what your pH is and then work with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easiest just to figure out what's going on and then make your list of possibilities from that. Because when you
And our
start putting
pH
it too
tends
much,
to be neutral to
We
high.
we run 6.5 to 7.2 probably for 80% of the county.
Right.
yeah, that's about right.
Which means we don't have low pH. We do not need to raise it. We do not need to add lime to
Yes,
Oh,
our lawns.
don't
had,
lie unless you're told you need to.
had a fellow at the Earth Day thing that came up and he said, "What do I need to do to grow Bahia?" He said, "I have done everything. I have put down lime." And I said, "My God, that's the worst thing you could possibly do. Don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Get a soil test and call me, and we'll go from there." But there's
Bahia especially is going to
it
be.
is really pH sensitive.
Yeah.
Bahia is just thrilled at 5.5 pH.
Hmm.
It's comfortable at 6, and then once it gets above 6, it starts going downhill, and it gets to 8, it's not going to survive. So,
So don't throw lime on it. You threw lime
yeah,
on New
lime
York.
just keeps raising the pH.
You
Very,
threw
very bad thing.
lime on your New York soil to sweeten it or whatever every spring or whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe-
lime doesn't make things sweeter. So
Well, they mean more alkaline, but we don't need to do that in Florida. We sell lime. We sell lime rock. We dig it out of the ground, and we have a major industry of that. We don't need to add it. We've got plenty.
Yeah, acid soil would be sour. Acids are sour.
Right.
So if you unsour it, you sweeten it.
See, Bill, he's explaining.
There
that.
you go. It makes sense. Yankees
but we
are not
don't
all as
recommend
stupid as
that you
think.
go tasting your soil. So no
No.
eating dirt, guys. Not good.
All right. On that note, I think it's probably time to wrap up. You're talking about eating dirt. It's probably we're done for today.
Yeah, when we get into dirt recipes, that means it's time to wrap it up. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for another fun virtual plant clinic. We will be back here again next week. Lily, you said you will not be here next week?
I will not be here, but maybe I'll try to pop in from my phone
Okay,
and see how you're doing.
I'll be here. I'm going to do my very best to line up a guest so I don't
You got
get too
one right
lonely.
He's right
We'll
down
probably
there.
have Bernie back. I mean, Bernie is just in the other room from here at the office.
I do have to hurry back because you said you wouldn't be here the week after. And Bernie doesn't have the magic words to turn this on. He can only just join us. So
Yes, somebody, either you or I need to send him the link. So,
yes.
but someone will be back here again next Thursday at 10 a.m. So if you have any lawn and garden questions, you just want to tune in for unusual recipes and chit chat and whatever else comes up around here, please feel free to do so. And we will see you again next week. So until then, bye and take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.